Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas. This is how to create a hyper-casual game in Unity, and welcome to episode 13. In this tutorial, we are going to cycle back around and kind of loop everything together because we're going to do the sequence after the timer has run out and hopefully link everything together so we can have one continuous cycle of playing the game and playing it again and again and again. Don't forget, click the subscribe button and click the bell icon as well to stay up to date with every tutorial still to come in this series and everything else on game development on my channel. With that in mind, let's get to work. So like I say, the whole idea of this is to kind of link everything over. So we're going to work with getting game over, as it were, and resetting the game. So we can actually do this quite simply. It's not as complicated as you would think. However, there is a certain sequence that we do have to put together once the time runs out. So there's a couple of different scripts that we're going to be working through in this particular tutorial. So splash background, if you recall, has one animation attached to it with a blank one as the actual, if it wants to appear. So let me close the animator and let's actually click it again. So it has that new state. Now, the best way that we could do this rather than create a new object is create another actual animation for it. So we have the fade out one. So let's also create an animation for fading in. So make sure we're in the correct folder here. So orb catch master folder within the animations. Let's click on splash background and let's go to animation. And what we need to do is just below the record button, we have a little drop down menu and we can create a new clip. And let's call this almost the same. So rather than splash fade out, we have splash fade in. Let's then click save and press the record button. So obviously this one is going to be the complete opposite of what we had for the other animation. This one is going to start off with the alpha as 0, and then after 60 frames, which is 1 second, we're going to set this as 255. And then we can press the record button again to stop, head to the project window, and on that splash fade in, just make sure we untick loop time. Let's go to animator and just make sure that it is there. We do want to keep the new state as the main animation though, so just keep that in mind. So the way this is going to work is when we have time run out, we are going to turn off the ability to generate more orbs. And we're also going to turn off the timer script, although that's probably not necessary. However, we'll see what happens because we may have to make an additional script to modify that time, just to kind of reset it. So let's head to the UI folder within the scripts and let's go to timer. So we're going to have to add a couple of things to this script because this one is going to be the one that controls everything that we see on screen when it ends. The first thing we're going to need to add here is public, and we're going to say game object, and it's going to be that object we've just added the animation to. So it's again just the splash background semicolon. So what this needs to do is here we need to have an extra if statement to say if it is 0. So if we do hit this is 0, which is going to be in here, then what we need to do is basically just say, yep, we've hit 0. Let's now do a separate routine. So I'm going to actually have that as a separate if statement down here. So if, and in brackets, is 0 equals true, then we do the following. So we're going to place a start coroutine here. So start coroutine, and let's call this, we'll call this game over. Open close bracket, semicolon. So now let's create that coroutine for game over. So I enumerator game over, open close bracket, open curly bracket. So the first thing we're going to want to do is turn the splash background back on and play an animation, which is that fading one. So splash background dot set active, and we'll say true, semicolon. And then we'll have splash background dot get component in spiky brackets. It's going to be, what was it called again? Let's actually copy the name of the animation just so as we don't have a typo. So copy the name and place it here. Open close bracket dot, oops. It actually helps to put it in the right place, doesn't it? So the actual component is animator, obviously. And that is going to be dot play, because we're going to play this animation. And there's the name of the animation. So now it'll play that animation. So the next event that we need to take place is to wait for 60 frames. Now I'm going to wait a little longer than 60 frames, just so we have just a white screen for probably less than half a second. So we'll say yield return new, wait for seconds, and in brackets we'll say 1.2f, semicolon. So after this, what do we want to happen? There's a couple of things that we do need to happen at this point. So we want to, let's say, display a score in the middle of the screen and the amount of orbs we've caught. And then after that, we need the button back on again to replay the game. Now, when we put this together and test it, there's going to be a couple of different things which may prove a bit, not difficult, but we may need to work with it to kind of debug any problems that we get. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to reset everything that is involved with that tap button to play the game. So things like the background music and the orb generator. So we need to add them in as variables as well. Public game object BGM and public game object, and it's going to be global scripts semicolon. So when we hit 0 down here, like I say, we start playing the animation, but before we wait for that 1.2 seconds, let's actually get those other things in place as well. So BGM dot set active, and we'll have that as false, semicolon. And then we also need to deal with on the global scripts, we need to turn off orb generate once again. So that's going to be orb. No, it's not. It's going to be what is it? That's it. Global scripts dot get component, and in spiky brackets, it's going to be orb generate. Oh, close bracket dot enabled equals false, semicolon. So the next thing we need to have active is going to be the tap button again that resets everything. So we need to declare that as a variable. So public game object, and it's going to be tap play button. So down here, after the 1.2, we say tap play button dot set active true, semicolon. So I'm sure I mentioned it last tutorial as well. Creating a sequence of events can be a little bit complicated, but as long as you know what you're doing, you're okay. It may require a bit of back and forth through different lines of code, but as long as you know what the end result needs to be, you've got clear vision of that, you should be okay. I wouldn't worry too much about it. So now what we need to do is let's create the score and the orbs visual for this particular screen here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that. Where is it? Which one is it? I've forgotten which one it is actually. Game logo, that's it. That's the text one that we should use. So I'm going to hold Control, press D to duplicate that one. And I'm going to change this to say score with a 0. And I'm going to put this above the tap button because everything in the canvas is in order. So tap button will always be on top, which is what we need. So let's rename this to final score. And I'm going to move it up just a little bit to about there. And I'm going to duplicate again. and bring it there. And this one is going to say final orbs. And let's change that to say orbs 0. So where do we go from here? We now need to declare these two as variables in the timer. So let's go ahead and do that. Public game object final score semicolon. Public game object final orbs with a semicolon. Now, the problem we have is we need scripts to start talking to each other much more. So what we mean by that is orb catch. We need to basically, in the score update, I should say. So orb catch, we need to work with the same kind of premise, i.e. the static variable that is within score updater, which is this one. Now the the orb score and the orb count are already static, so we need our timer to actually talk to that particular script. Like I said, much in the same way as the other script did. So we're going to say down here, where is it? After 1.2 seconds, we're going to say final score dot get component, and in spiky brackets text close bracket dot text equals score, and then that is going to be plus score updater dot, and if we scroll down the list we should be able to find it, orb score semicolon, and then we're going to say final orbs dot get component, and again text open close bracket dot text equals orbs, and then plus score updater dot orb count semicolon, and let's save that for now so we know where we're at. So again, this sequence is going to be, it's going to be more a little bit of back and forth now. So we need to work out what's going to happen next. So we've changed these to say what we need them to say. Now what we need to do is make them appear, but at the same time, we could also do with having this tap to begin appear on the screen again. So let's have down here, we'll have final score dot set active, and in brackets true because we want it to appear on screen. Final orbs dot set active, and in brackets true semicolon, again because we want that to appear on screen. So let's go back up here, and we also need to have, like I said, that text to say tap to begin. So we need that as another game object, and we'll have that as tap to begin text semicolon, and we'll place that here, tap to begin text dot set active true semicolon, resave that script. So now this is going to get a little bit not complicated, but somewhat not confusing, but a little bit difficult to work with, because we now have to kind of reset the timer and also reset the score, but whilst doing it at the right time so as everything doesn't go a little bit crazy. So to kind of show you what I mean, what we're going to do is we are now going to test out what we've done, and you should be able to see the problems that we have. And obviously when we see the problems, it's a good thing because we know what we need to do further. So splash background, BGM, global scripts, which again I don't think we've probably needed, but for all intents and purposes it's easy. Tap to play button, final score, final orbs, and the tap to begin text. So I'm going to save my scene, and now let's try out this whole thing and see how far we get and see how badly it goes wrong. Like I said before, in this kind of situation, You're always going to have to do testing over and over. You're going to come across bugs. It's just part of what it all is. Okay, so let's do what we can. I'm not too bothered about actually getting a score here, but as long as we have something to show for it on the final screen, I guess that's all we really care about. So yeah, so far so good. I think it maybe I might change the orbs a little bit to be a bit translucent, maybe. I guess it wouldn't hurt to have a quick look. Okay, so we're coming to the end now. Let's see what happens. Right, so we just need to move that around a little bit there. But all in all, that doesn't look too bad. Right, so you can see already that we have a little problem. Okay, so. Right, so we need to figure out a way of getting around that. So what ultimately happens when we press that button? Why is all that happening? It's because that we need to reset everything here. So before I do anything, I'm just going to move final orbs down just a little bit to about there, so as it's in place. And down here, when we have game over and we have all this, what I think we should probably do is let's have the score reset to 0. So it is current seconds, actually reset to 30, not 0. And is 0 equals false, semicolon, and save. And let's try out that now and see what happens. I have every faith that this will not work, but like I said before, the amount of testing you're going to have to do is going to be insane. It really is. So if you guys want, you can probably skip ahead 20 seconds. It really is easier with an actual touch screen. Because when I created this for testing purposes, it was much easier on the touch screen. It really was. So, counting down now. 5 seconds left, and let's see if this looks any better. Score 33, orbs 17, tap anywhere to begin. Okay, so there's a couple of things there that we need to also deal with. So I noticed that these are still on screen. We need to reset the score. The time did also carry on there when it shouldn't have done. But let's see what happens now if we continue on with this. Because for all intents and purposes, it will allow us to constantly go through this. Okay, so this is working a little better now. So it also means at this point, we need to say, just before, rather just after we've set is 0 equal false, we can say score updater dot orb count equals 0, semicolon, and then score updater dot orb score is also equal to 0, semicolon. And I think ultimately what we can do, we also need to turn off the actual things, don't we? But we can do that in another script. So what we might be able to do here is we can reference the global scripts and actually turn this timer script off. I think that is going to be the best course of action right now. So global scripts dot get component in spiky brackets timer open close bracket dot enabled equals false and save. Now that should be that script completely done. Next thing we need to go to is the OCM begins, and we need to add in the 2 variables for the final score and final orbs and turn them off. So public game object final text, and I'm actually going to make that another array. There we go, with a semicolon there. And let's see, begin the game. So when we tap it, before we even wait for that 1 second, let's actually turn off those. So final text 0 dot set active false semicolon, and then do the same again for number 1. Text 1 dot set active false semicolon, and save. So let's head back into Unity. Let's set those 2 variables, and that should be the complete sequence done and sorted. So global scripts, and let's go to OCM begins, final text, set that to 2, and then final score and final orbs. Let's save our scene, and let's hopefully press play and have this all in place. So far so good. 2, 1, let's go. Again, I'm not too worried about actually catching anything at the moment. Not very good. It's my own game and I'm not very good. Dear me. Okay, 10 seconds left and we should be able to see everything with the sequence done and dusted. So 51 and 22, okay. Tap anywhere to begin. Right, the time is still 0. Okay, so... Oh, there we go, it's reset itself. Why is that happen now? Okay, so timer... No, that is strange. So why has it... So it should have... I'll tell you what we'll do. Before we actually disable the script, I am going to let it wait for just a fraction of a second and save it. And I think what I'm going to do for testing purposes is actually reduce the amount of time that we're waiting to play the game. So I might just reduce it to 5 seconds for now. You don't necessarily have to. It's just so as I can speed up this tutorial a little bit rather than you guys hang around for half a minute when you don't really need to. So what should happen now is we'll play for 5 seconds, although it says 30. There we go. So now, there we go. So we didn't do very well. 28, 27. Okay, so I'm going to see what happens now if we let this timer... In fact, if this doesn't work, we're going to do one last thing which I know will work. And then finally we'll have the whole thing resolved. I'm doing well here. I'm not doing too bad, he says as he starts missing them. Okay. And there's the end of the second play. Okay, so the score has not gone through there. Okay, now that has confused me a little bit there. So the score wasn't updating. Okay, so yeah. So I can see what's happening there. So I think ultimately if we set that as 31, that's fine. And probably what we should do is actually take these 2 lines of code out of the coroutine and let's place them inside here. And let's see how it reacts now, because we're getting that score and displaying it before we even get anywhere near resetting to 0. So fingers crossed, we have just sorted out all of our bugs. So again, the first gameplay is going to be at 5 seconds, although it says 30. It's going to change to 5, 4, 3, 2. There we go. So we've sorted that out. Time 30. I think we've just resolved everything. There we go. Perfect. So let's set the global scripts. and set the current seconds back to 30 and save. So that is our first hyper-casual game. The fundamentals of it, done. But this series is not over by any means. Oh, no, no. There is still a long way to go. So this is just one general, quick, simple idea of creating a hyper-casual game. There are many, many more. And I am aware that this tutorial has gone on for, well, longer than I would like, but we're now going to talk about a little something else as well. So we're going to actually create another style of hyper-casual game from the next tutorial. And I think ultimately I am going to leave this entire series open-ended, because if I come up with more ideas, I could just add to this series. So let's see what this looks like with these little orbs a bit translucent. And go. Okay. Could do with a little bit more, but that's all right. So, next tutorial, guys, we are going to take a look at a whole new type of hyper-casual game. The next one is going to be an endless type of hyper-casual game. You mainly see that style in endless runners and that kind of thing. So we're going to look at a different style that you can go for. We already have a lot of the scripts and code in place for us to kind of reuse in a different manner. So until that next tutorial, when we create a whole new hyper-casual game, stay cool, guys. Keep learning, and I will see you around. Thank you very much for watching.